So the next presenter is supposed to do it online. Well, it's a group actually. So the last one that we're going to take on is Enroute to Gender Parity, a review and augmentation of industry solutions in AI. And it's by a team in India associated with Aparna. I'm sorry, my colleagues, if I'm not able to get your names right, I'm so sorry. But we have Aparna, Chakravorty, and Monisha, Bhattacharya, and they're affiliated to Accenture, India, in India. So they're doing this online. We're going to share. Okay, they're already online. I'm so sorry if I got your names wrong. Yeah, you have the floor. You can now share your screen so that we can see what you're going to present to us. And you also have 20 minutes, but we have time, so you present in 20 minutes and then we can continue with the discussion.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Wonderful. Just give me a second, please. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody joining from different parts of the world. And I thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to present on the topic called Enroute Gender Parity. And this study is about how can we augment industry solutions with different frameworks within an organization to ensure gender parity. So it's a study where we have gone about looking into what exists in the market and how do we augment with existing processes, relook at the frameworks that govern organization decisions and force upon the concept of gender parity. So to begin with, we are a group of 4, and today we are presenting. With me, I have my colleague Monisha Bhattacharya, and we are presenting from India. The very first thing that comes to our mind about gender parity is the ever green problem, I would call it, on how the world has been grappling with bringing in a balance between the roles we play and different segments of decisions where men and women are to be considered for any decision, or it could be anything to do with an opportunity. So we would have heard about these that show up on the screen right now, which were very, very loudly called up, where Amazon, the team had been working so hard to build an algorithm which could relieve them of the thousands and thousands of resumes that came for screening. And they really worked hard to put the thing together. It worked well for them until they realized that the algorithm had learned from the data that was 10-year-old, and Amazon was not doing well with gender balance already. The algorithm learned from this imbalanced data set. As a result, went ahead and produced biased decisions. And Amazon landed up recruiting more men than women in their process. Similarly, it's a very, Steve Wozniak did put it up that he and his wife, Janet Jill came up with applying for credit cards, Apple credit cards. And then what it resulted to is he got 10 times more credit opportunity than his wife, though they had shared assets. They had assets which were similar or equal, and yet the decision by the system was about giving him 10 times more than his wife. And then, of course, in the whole the documentary, which is on the coded bias, where Joy Bulamini brought it up very clearly that most of the ML algorithms discriminate based on classes like race and gender. So these were alarming, and it is definitely an important space to look at. to bring in balance, because it just not creates discrimination in selections or in the decision processes. It also prevents men and women contribute to the global economy. So what we went about, why is it important, is a space that we wanted to look into. Why is it happening? So it is all about, in the past, for ages now, the society has not been equitable for all genders. Men went about taking care of workspace while women did look at the home front. As a result, the data that goes into training an algorithm cannot be balanced. And if we rely on those age-old data set to train our algorithms to make decisions for future, it is definitely going to be a biased decision. Men, historically, we have less representation in roles which are specific, like sales or maybe the senior roles. We have more men than women. And if now we have to hire women in the senior roles, it's again not going to help through AI, because that's again a space for discrimination. And so on and so forth. While we are trying to bring in AI algorithms to solve this problem, we have this as a major problem to solve. But seems like even if organizations have put up different strategies to bring in a balance, they have gender balance quotas for 2025, 2030, but introducing an AI algorithm might not help them immediately unless they look into what is the AI algorithm learning from. What is the impact? It's just not about discrimination. We are, in our study, we did not want to just focus on that it's not fair. It needs to be looked into because men and women have equal rights to be in the corporate scenario. We wanted to look at the impact on the GDP. And it was alarming to see that McKinsey has brought up many reports which talk about what is the impact of disparity. And it clearly says that half of the world population, if we look at, we are half and half. However, only 37% get contributed through women. At the same time, in organizations, when there is an entry-level hiring, we have 50-50 entering into the space, yet when we look at the higher positions or the senior CEO, CXO positions, we hardly find men or women working or women getting selected for those positions. And there are millions of such examples everywhere. And what motivated us to go ahead with this particular topic, to really look into this space, was the last statement, which is very bold, which talks about gender balance could add 12 trillion to global economy. That was the loudest statement that we considered to take this up, because if we are able to solve it, even if it is by some percentage, what could we do to the world altogether? It could leave behind a better space to live in. It could leave behind a place with lesser discrimination, and we could see maybe a much more meaningful life to lead. So which led to the space where we did not want to only talk about what's not working and what is not good. We wanted to look at what are the possibilities of making 12 trillion as the GDP happen. So here's what we looked into. We didn't want to spread ourselves too wide, because gender discrimination or gender balance, gender parity is required in all walks of life. Today, we will look at the area that we worked on, which is purely in how do we bring in balance, or how do we remove bias in the space of recruitment and job or role allocation in an organization. The very first thing we would want to bring to the conference here is there are enough and more AI algorithms which could act as an antidote to the AI algorithm which makes the decision. And we also want to bring to the audience here is there are many potential algorithms which can work on top of the algorithms available in the market to solve the problem. At the same time, it is just not possible for AI algorithms to take the full responsibility of solving the gender bias issue or bringing in gender parity. It is also a lot that we need to do at the governance level in the organizations. We would need to look at how do we ensure that some frameworks are implemented uniformly across the organization when it comes to role allocation or hiring process. At the same time, can we have some business processes standardized across all levels when it comes to such decisions? And we also found, finally, we have looked into two big areas. One, how do we look at technologies which could take care of eliminating bias in the AI algorithms, because speed and scale will matter in future. At the same time, we would want to see how do we augment these technology solutions with existing processes in the organization. The two big algorithms that will play a big role in the process would be the interpretable algorithms, which take care of auditing the existing algorithms, look for biases and highlight those biases, also take care of, to an extent, do the corrective action. At the same time, we will look at algorithms available which could play the role of fairness and inject balance in the diversity or bring in a balance in the gender equation. So this is where our study lies in the space of recruitment and role opportunities. So this is how it looks in a nutshell. So we are looking at three big things. One, what are the algorithms that can serve as an antidote to the AI biases? Second, what are the recruitment processes or job allocation processes that we could look into to ensure that it eliminates any kind of possibilities of becoming in the way of fairness? And third would be, what are the standard organizational policies we would want to bring in to ensure that it becomes the way to go? It's not a good to have process, it is the way or the mindset of the people. So in the antidote to AI biases that we are introducing interpretable algorithms, the diversity and fairness aware algorithms. These are algorithms which are available, being introduced in the market through many organizations. They exist in different formats, which help us customize it to the context that we are using. The recruitment processes would be how could we go about introducing blind resume selection? Why do we need to know the name of the person, the school they belong to, or the preferences that they have, or anything that would indicate which gender the individual belongs? At the same time, can we have a diverse set of interview panels? It is not something we don't have. Organizations are following it already, but not across organizations. People are doing a lot of these things in pockets, but in pockets it wouldn't help because the data needs to be corrected, data needs to be cleaned. So constant regular practice would help the data to be balanced, and that data would serve in the training of the algorithm in future. And organization policy wise, it would be training, letting everybody understand what unconscious bias means, or maybe all the policies are equal opportunities. Everything that we do has a target to bring in gender balance. What do we do to ensure that people get coached and mentored to give equal opportunity to people, and always set up a diversity and inclusion committee. Now, bits and like I said earlier, they all exist in bits and pieces. They do not come as a package. So this looks like our total solution for an organization who is very serious about bringing in a balance. So at this point, I would want to request my colleague Monisha to come in and take it forward.
Thank you, Aparna. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So I would be thanks Aparna first of all for introducing our talk and giving an overview of what it is going to be all about. I am going to focus on the AI part of the talk. That is the part where we talk about how AI algorithms can be made can be made more interpretable, can be made unbiased, can be made more fair, and AI algorithms which can be used by organizations to make their organizations more diverse and inclusive. So first off, there are the interpretable algorithms. These are algorithms that are transparent and explainable. They allow organizations to understand their own algorithms. So basically, they help organizations to understand the algorithms that the organizations are using, and to help them understand how decisions are getting made in the algorithms and identify any biases that may exist. By using these interpretable algorithms, organizations can then identify biases and then may take steps to address them. Let's go to the next slide. So there are various such interpretable algorithms. There are these two by IBM called AI Fairness 360 and Watson OpenScale. So these are open source toolkits which examine, report, mitigate discrimination and bias in machine learning algorithms throughout the AI application lifecycle. Watson also allows organizations to monitor and audit machine learning models in production, and obviously helps in detecting and mitigating bias while also explaining model behavior and providing transparency into the model performance. FairLearn by Microsoft is a community-driven project. Here, developers get to learn about AI fairness from guides and use cases. They also provide a Python toolkit to assess and mitigate fairness issues. Hence, AI MS FairLearn provides developers with algorithms and metrics to help them identify and mitigate bias. Explainable Artificial Intelligence or XAI Toolbox by Fraunhofer IOSP is again an AI explainability toolkit, which allows for organizations to do data analysis, debugging, explaining the prediction of any black box model that they might have, increasing the trustworthiness in AI decisions. Right. Let's go to the next slide. We have various other interpretable algorithms like H2O.ai. This is a startup that provides a platform for detecting and mitigating bias in AI models. H2O driverless, H2O3, and H2O explainability essentially are auto ML, provide auto ML capabilities to companies. Essentially, they are designed to use AI to make AI with automation encompassing data science best practices, which include fairness and unbiased decisions. So hence, they use automated ML platforms to which includes fairness algorithms to help ensure that the model generated are fair and unbiased. Pyrimetrics is a Harvard company, and their model produces model training processes produce models that abide by interpretation to use an outcome-based model debiasing process. Google What If is a very interesting tool. It allows developers to toggle with data, hyperparameters, and various features of the data to understand what the scenario would be if you change certain aspects of the data or of the hyperparameters. So it's like you are playing with the data to understand finally what kind of fairness will it lead to, or what kind of accuracy will that lead to. So they can do this in a GUI platform and figure out the best practices to bring about fairness. Truera, Data Robot, Fiddler are all AI explainability platforms which provide transparency into decision-making process of machine learning models. All of them help in detecting and mitigating bias, identifying data quality issues, and provide interpretable insights into model behavior. Data Robot also helps in auditing the model performance. Right. Okay, one more thing. This is not an exhaustive list. These are just few of the algorithms that we have put up here. There are various other algorithms out there in the market trying to provide an interpretable, explainable platform to organizations so that they can make their solutions, make their AI models more fair and unbiased. Right. Let's go to the next slide, please. Right. Next, we come to the next set of models. These are the diversity and fairness aware algorithms. So these are solutions. These are packaged solutions which take into account diversity and inclusion in their decision making so that companies can use these solutions to create a more gender equitable workforce. And especially when it comes to hiring, especially when it comes to promotions and senior positions and so on. Right. Let's look at the different algorithms in this space. So we have Texito. It was founded in 2014, and it provides augmented writing software for workplace content and communications. So if you have used Grammarly, Texito is something like Grammarly, but for inclusion and diversity. So the way Grammarly corrects your spellings and grammatical mistakes, Texito interrupts you when you are using biased language and replaces it with more inclusive and equitable alternatives. It does helps users write more inclusive job descriptions, emails, and other business communications. Gender Decoder and Vera are similar tools which are online tools which help to analyze job advertisements, job postings, and other written business communications for biased language. Now, there's a snippet about Gender Decoder, which is very interesting. It was inspired by a paper by Daniel Gosher, Justin Friesen, and Aaron C.K. This paper, titled Evidence That Gendered Wording in Job Advertisement Exists and Sustains Gender Equality, came out in 2011, published in Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. In the paper, the researchers do a very interesting thing. They exposed men and women to job adverts which included different kinds of gender-coded language, right? And they recorded how appealing the job seemed to men versus women, and how the participants felt as if they belonged into the job or not. So just a little snippet about how Gender Decoder and the whole idea behind unbiasing language came into the forefront. Right, then we have others. We have Gap Jumpers. It's very interesting. It's a platform that offers blind audition for job candidates, which helps eliminate unconscious bias during hiring. They anonymize resumes and use skill-based challenges to evaluate candidates. And then they use a machine learning algorithm to score and rank each candidate without including any personally identifiable information. Blendoor is similar. They also use ML algorithms to help companies build more diverse teams. They provide features like anonymous profiles, skill-based matching with job opportunities, and so on. Obviously, it hides candidates' names, photo, and other demographic attributes. Blendoor is interesting because it also publishes a blend score that rates other companies, on their recruitment, compensation, retention, and promotion of women and underrepresented minorities. Finally, we have HireView, which is a very different solution to the other solution that we have seen here. It is an AI-powered video interviewing platform. And what it does is it helps companies reduce bias by standardizing the interview experience. And through its AI-powered video interviewing tool, it analyzes the candidate's non-verbal behaviors as well, like tone, body language, and keywords. Again, these are just a few examples of the various solutions along similar or slightly different lines that are out there in the market right now for companies to utilize to make a more diverse and more inclusive team. Just to name a few, there's Entello, there's Calvista, there's Hello Hive, Wayfinder, Tengai, and various others. Cool. Right. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So now this portion of the talk, this portion in the next slide, this slide and the next slide, we basically we are proposing some potential algorithms that can be used as industry solutions. So these algorithms are out there, either in academic parlance already as published papers, or these are in the process of research. And we would like to present it as potential algorithms which can be used by industries, startups as solutions to bring about gender parity. Right. Starting with machine unlearning. Now, machine unlearning is a process of removing or modifying previously learned information from a machine learning model. Now, machine unlearning is a very nascent field, and it has come about in the last, I think, 4-5 years, when the whole idea that big organizations like Google, Apple, Facebook are using our personal information without our consent became more widespread. So individuals, countries, and laws like GDPR now require Google, Apple, Facebook, and other organizations to not include personal information about anybody, right? But this is a problem for the organization, because how do you make a model unlearn what it has already learned? So it has already used that information, and it is giving you a performance based on the information, on your personal identifiable information, right? So how do you make it unlearn? Now, research is going on in this. There are a few papers out about this. There's one by 2018, the model called SISA, SISA, but that also has some problems associated with it. Here, we just are providing some tools that might be of use for machine unlearning. So we start with retraining. You can think of retraining as a kind of transfer learning. So you take a big model, then you retrain it with a small subset of data with emphasis, and hence you change the emphasis of the model to the new data, right? Again, we are using machine unlearning here in the context of gender disparity. So what we are trying to say is that you take a model which might be biased, and then you try to unlearn the bias out of it. So how can you do that? So one is retraining with a new subset of data, right? Then you have regularization techniques like L1 and L2 regularizations, which can add penalty term to the loss function, discouraging the model from relying on any one feature too heavily, right? And maybe these features are the protected attributes, right? Then you can use reinforcement learning to penalize, say, biased behavior or reward unbiased behavior. In fact, ChatGPT uses a reinforcement learning layer on top of GPT 3.5 to do a similar thing, though they do not restrict it only to bias, gender bias. They also use it for hate speech and toxic material and so on. Incremental learning is a technique that allows the model to continuously learn and adapt to new data. In this way, it can help mitigate the impact of previously learned parameters and behaviors by allowing the model to update its knowledge. So this is a form of continuous learning for a machine learning model. Then there is active forgetting, which means intentionally removing previously learned patterns and behavior. It can be achieved by selectively removing or reducing the weight of certain inputs, and these can be, again, protected inputs and features by retraining the model, by basically retraining the model. Finally, it might be necessary to do data curation, to bring in a new set of data completely so basically you unfreeze the whole model and you retrain it on a new set of data, which basically which changes the whole weights and biases of the entire model, and makes it unlearn the biased patterns and behaviors that it had learned before, and completely changes the model behavior, which obviously is a much more time consuming and computationally intensive process. Right. So this was the process of machine unlearning. Now we come to various other potential algorithms that might be useful. One of the things that might be obviously, which we also will bring out in the governance part, is the algorithm auditing aspect. So we believe that algorithms which are out there in the wild should be continuously monitored, so that we can see that whether with time are they sticking to an unbiased approach, or are they starting to now give biased results? Right. So basically checking for disparities based on gender, ethnicities, and other factors continuously through algorithmic auditing. Right. Counterfactual fairness is actually a fairness metric which has been proposed by Kushner et al. In 2017 in their paper in Neuro IPS. It's a framework for modeling fairness using tools from causal inference. The idea here is that a decision is fair if an individual is fair towards an individual if it is the same, if the decision is the same in A, the actual world, and B, in a counterfactual world where the individual belong to a different demographic group. Okay, so this is another metric of fairness which can be used in various other solutions. Right. Data balancing. Data balancing comes because there is a huge amount of data imbalance when we talk about gender. For example, if you consider physicists from the 1800s till now, or you consider CEOs even now, there would be a huge gender imbalance in that data. There would be very few women. But an AI algorithm which should pick out budding physicists, or which should pick out people for a CEO role or a senior position in today's day and age, should understand that there is absolutely no difference between a man and a woman when it comes to these roles. This is just an example. So this is where gender balancing comes into the picture. What gender balancing does is it oversamples to allay the effects of gender imbalance. So essentially random oversampling with data cleaning methods produces better defined class structures. And this was something proposed by Battista et al. In ACM SIG KDD 2004. Right. Next, we come to adversarial training. This is a paper by Adeli et al. 2021 in IEEE. This is a method for adversarial debiasing, where a model based on adversarial training is trained with two competing objectives. Firstly, it learns. The objective, first of all, is to maximize discriminative power with respect to the task. And in the same vein, it minimizes statistical dependence with protected variables. So this is a way of adversarial training to minimize the dependence on protected variables and maximize the discriminative power of the algorithm. Let me quickly talk about data correction, which is essentially a technique for modifying the data to correct biases present in the data set. So this is something you do before you train the model. That is, you curate the model, or you curate the data, or you correct the data for biases. Right. With generative AI, we have been exposed with even more tools which can be used for gender parity. Data synthesis is one such tool where you use various generative AI algorithms like GANs, variation autoencoders, and stable diffusion, for example. Diffusion models, for example, for to synthesize data, which, I'm extremely sorry if I have exhausted our time. I'll quickly go over this. So you essentially use data, synthesize data of underrepresented categories like women or minorities, and then use it to train models. Right. Finally, generative AI. There are apart from data synthesis, there are also different generative AI tools, essentially using variational autoencoders to disentangle the learning and so on and so forth. But I will not go into the details of that since I've exhausted my time. I'm sorry. I'll give it back to Aparna to wrap up our whole discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Monisha. And quickly, I will take you through what are the benefits that organizations have reaped just by implementing some of these algorithms in their systems. While it is not a foolproof process, but they still declared that they have found a lot of benefits. So the very first company, the Australian company Atlassian, they have used Textio that we just heard about, which has increased their female recruits by to 57%. It used to be 10% initially. Similarly, organizations like American Express, Cisco, CVS, Dropbox that you see in the screen right now, they have been using Textio to eliminate all the biases in the resumes and in the recruitment process. So it's more of a language processing tool. And then IBM, the big giants like IBM, Deloitte, HSBC, now then KPMG, etc., they have constantly been looking at the space of blind hiring to improve their gender balance in the organization, and so on and so forth. Unilever is doing a lot in the space of bringing in balance. They not only do they have incorporated the deployed AI-based interactive games from open scale. At the same time, they have been looking at various means of improving their processes, hiring processes, to eliminate bias and discrimination in the system. So that was about how was algorithm helping organizations, even if those were in one odd process or one odd framework introduced, but yet they have been seeing a lot of change in their hiring process or deployment process. And these are some organizations who have brought in a change in the governance itself, while the business processes have been redefined. They ensure that there is a diverse interview panel. They ensure that they have a diversity targets. Most of them have a 2025 diversity target to achieve, and many of them are wanting to achieve 50-50 balance by 2025. Then there is all about how do they go about ensuring that the job advertisements are very neutral in the language. They ensure that diversity and inclusion committee monitors the intake of women in different roles across the organization. They are also analyzing how data is being monitored. Is the data improving over time? Because historically it had an imbalance which has caused this problem. How do we to make the corrections to ensure that in future the data is balanced enough for algorithms to learn from it? And then we wanted to propose a quick little framework where we believe that if this is implemented, a lot of balance will be achieved quite effortlessly, driven by algorithms, and at the same time having the governance strategies in the processes, the organization decision-making processes. So if I will just take a minute. So here there are two start points. One is from here, another is here. So if we are using data to train a model, then we look at what the data source coming in. We ensure that data is collected, cleaned, and then we go about processing it by using algorithms like data synthesis. We might have to introduce some synthetic data to bring in the balance. We look at data correction tools to bring in the balance. Once the balance is achieved, we pass it on through the unbiased training, make it an unbiased training data. And with that unbiased training data is pushed into the algorithm which needs to learn, or if we have used the unlearning as an algorithm, we have helped the algorithm to unlearn, then we use this unbiased data to help it learn. And we assume that the results would be a bias-free recruitment role allocation algorithm. That would go about using the blind resume screening process and help in making a decision by screening the right skilled people with the right experience, and not care about whether they are male or female. And then it is passed on, the screened resumes are passed on to a diverse interview panel who would ensure they have a very neutral job description, at the same time have structured interview questions for all the candidates, and hope that would result in the best hire. The another source could be that we start from here. We already have a biased recruitment algorithm. We had it because we have trained it through our the data set, which is collected through the 10-year-old data. But we can't help it. We have to start with the AI algorithm. We train the trained AI trained algorithm, which is a biased algorithm, is passed through a complete audit system. It begins with development. During the assessment phase, it goes through a mitigation phase, and we ensure it's a quality assurance process. The fairness algorithm tool, the interpretable algorithm tool, and the gender awareness algorithm, the tool will help the biased algorithm to free itself from the bias. And then that becomes a bias-free algorithm, and it goes through the same process for the screening, and the resumes are presented for interviews, and the interview panel results in the best hire. So this is what we have put together as a governance strategy to be implemented as a whole. It's a total solution, and to be implemented to ensure all leaks are plugged and there is no possibility of letting the algorithm stay biased at any point. So with that, we thank everybody for listening, and we are sorry we have taken extra time.
Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause. Actually, because the first speaker canceled, I decided that you should have the time to finish your presentation, so it's okay. We've had a lot. Any questions, comments? And our colleagues online, we still have the Q&A function, so you can use it to ask your questions, please. Audience, any questions, any comments? Well, I have one. So I was listening to Camila's presentation and how the current algorithms are unable to positively discriminate between non-binary and transgender categories. So these proposals that you're making, these alternative algorithms that you're putting out there, which you say are going to reduce the gender disparity, are they also able to take care of the issue that Camila raises? Do you know?
No, actually they do not. Most of these algorithms are still partitioning gender in a binary way, male, female. They are not taking into account the non-binary genders, the continuous spectrum of gender into consideration. What we are trying to highlight through all of this is that even doing that is a step forward, because women are still lagging behind when it comes to job roles, when it comes to contributing to the workplace.
Yeah, just to add to what Monisha just shared, these algorithms focus on the skills, the experience levels, the abilities, capabilities of the candidate, rather than what is the gender of the candidate. So it is not about male or female or any of the gender categories. It is about the capabilities, the ability to perform the role in its best form. So that's what. Therefore, the blind screening comes in. Therefore, the resume becomes totally neutral, absolutely neutral. It doesn't matter who it is. It is about what the person can do.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely right.
Okay, but that also raises an issue for me that if algorithms are going to be gender blind, is that really what we want? That our genders do not matter in what we are capable of doing? Is just synonymous to other minority theories like race and all others. Whether you like it or not, there are categories of people. Is it safe for us? We want solutions, yes, but is that solution we're looking at the best? That our genders don't matter? So these blind, that's really a concern for me.
That's a very good point. In fact, there are some solutions out there which help companies build profiles which are diverse in nature. So they actually take into account what your team profile demographically looks at, and then provides you with diverse demographics to choose from. However, the idea of eliminating gender from resumes, from interview process, is to focus specifically on the skill set. So the idea is that the skill matters. No matter which gender you come from, your skills, and these could be your skills at coding and or so on and so forth, and these could also be your soft skills. But only your skills matter, and nothing else matters when you're choosing a candidate. But I think it's open for debate whether this will totally making the gender not count, will it affect in a positive way or a negative way? Aparna, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something, a much more advanced thought process, the advanced area of consideration. Right now, the imbalance is so hard that even the job allocation, the role allocation is full of discrimination, where all service related low paying jobs get allocated to women, and all the front ending target based the senior roles get allocated to male. We need to fix first that piece, because if McKinsey's reading is right, we are losing out on such huge $1 trillion of economy, which could change the world, which could make the world a better place to live. So therefore, that's the second layer of consideration. It's an interesting point. Maybe we would like to read more about it and research and come to arrive at a area of what would that gender blind look like? What could it lead to?
Yes, because I was also thinking about it. If we are going to go in the way of gender blindness, then we are completely ignoring or forgetting about the existential problems that women in society face as compared to their male counterparts. So that if our gender is part of the application process, then they know that, okay, we're hiring women or we're hiring men, so we need to shift certain meetings not beyond a certain time in the day, which will make it very difficult for women to attend these meetings or even programs, workshops, because they have other social responsibilities, like take care of their children and everything. Because if we're going to remain gender blind, then all these other inequalities will continue to be perpetuated. For example, if I want to be in a top office position and my gender is out of the picture, right? They're still going to fix meetings at 9 p.m. in the night, which is not going to favor me because I have children that I have to take care of, right? So that is really my concern, that it's going to allow the current systems, which work perfectly for men, and because we are eliminating the gender from the picture, it's going to be continued to be perpetuated. And in the long run, I think it's going to have problems. That's just my concern. But, well, you're saying that it's something that probably you can look into, but I think you should seriously look into it. The gender blindness is a problem for me. I don't know. Audience.
Agree. Absolutely agree. In fact, right now we are looking at what is the harm behind the discrimination that is caused in every organization, and it is visible. It's a big concern. So second would be, if we cannot define nature, so there is definitely some consideration of the two genders that we consider right now. We'll have to consider and include. It's an inclusive society that we are looking at. So this is our first step to ensure discrimination doesn't cause the concern that we see today. There is a lot of women getting discriminated, and it causing a lot of, I would call, unrest in the society. Can we leave it on the woman to decide whether they would like to take up the job which a male counterpart can access or have access to, or would want to settle with what works? But right now, even that access is not available. It doesn't even depend on a woman's decision. It is just decided. So we are at that layer today, right now.
And just to add on to Aparna's thing, today we presented a governance framework which was around hiring the best candidate, irrespective of which gender they belong to. However, we are working on a governance framework within the organization which will take into account practices that you were talking about, like not fixing meetings beyond a certain time, or giving, say, a period leave, right? So that organizations in themselves become more inclusive and open to women, the needs of women. We are working on that governance framework.
That's the governance side, the organization processes side, culture side, mindset side that we are also introducing.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, then I think that we will wrap up and end the session. Thank you very much for your insightful presentation, both you and Camila. Thank you so much, and we hope to see the revised versions of your brilliant ideas and read about them and show it to the world. Thank you so much for coming, and audience, thank you for being a wonderful audience. Even though you're unusually silent, but it's okay. So I think the session is over now. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.